For Montgomery County Council President Kate Stewart, I'm Jordan Lindsay. Reporters, if you still need permission to record, or if you have any questions throughout this briefing, you can note that in the chat or you can raise your hand and I will call on you accordingly. Now I'll toss it to Council President Stewart for remarks and then we'll open it up for questions. Council President Stewart, to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Lindsay, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Stewart, and I want to welcome you to my first media availability as Council President. Thanks to each of you for being here today and for all the work you do to keep our residents informed. I will continue the tradition of hosting regular meeting availabilities when the Council is in session and be available to answer any questions you have. I want to talk today and start by thanking our immediate past president, Andrew Friedson, for his leadership and friendship over the last year. Through unanticipated challenges and leadership changes within county government, he led the council body with steadfastness under pressure and upholding his commitment to transparency and efficiency in government. So we were wonderfully led last year by Councilmember Friedson. I'm looking forward to these meetings, and today I thought I would start off talking about my priorities for the year ahead as Council President, and then highlight a number of items we have on our agenda for the Council meeting tomorrow. First, as Council President, one of my top priorities is growing our economy by continuing our support for businesses and entrepreneurs and growing our presence as a leading life science hub. Many of you were there or know about the second year ribbon cutting we had at the Institute for Health Computing a few weeks ago. As was said there on that day, we are the future of health right now in North Bethesda, and we want to continue to be so. So we'll be focusing on that. We'll also be focusing on boosting the availability of housing and affordable housing, especially along our transit corridors and near our job centers. We want to continue our focus on being a world-class place for education and having a very strong public school system, as well as continuing our strong partnership with Montgomery College and the universities of Shady Grove. Especially given the changes that are going to happen at the federal level in January, we are looking at amplifying programs and services that advance us and continue our work as a welcoming and inclusive community here in Montgomery County. So with that said, we are continuing our focus on racial equity, both internally here at the council offices and externally as we review our policies and funding of programs. We will continue to commit to provide funding for services for our LGBTQ plus community and make sure that Montgomery County continues to be a safe haven for LGBT plus community residents. And we'll uplift immigration rights and ensure the safety of all our community members. And because in Montgomery County, we have a number of residents who work for or are government contractors, we will be focusing on our federal workforce moving forward. Yesterday, we held a resource fair at the Executive Office Building to bring together our nonprofit as well as our community, our government agencies to make sure that residents know what support they have here in Montgomery County and the resources that are available. It was a terrific turnout of residents coming to talk to us about their needs and to find out more about the resources. And we look forward to continuing those programs and outreach with residents. In addition to that, over the next year, I want to focus on mental health issues during my presidency. We know this is a crisis, not just here in Montgomery County, but across the country. And I want to work collaboratively with my colleagues here on the council, our community partners, and our government agencies to really highlight the work we're doing well on mental health and also identify those places we need to be doing more. And we know this is a high priority for many people across our county government, as well in our school system. So I look forward to getting that work underway this year. Now I want to highlight some of the things that we'll be working on tomorrow on Tuesday, December 10th. This is the last meeting before we go into winter recess. So our last meeting for 2024. And we have a number of items that may be of interest to you tomorrow. The first is a new bill that I'm actually introducing. It is Bill 29-24 to create a discounted parking permit for childcare providers and organizations that provide services to the unhoused in our Silver Spring Central Business District. We know that those who live, work, shop, volunteer in our downtown area in Silver Spring have been dramatically impacted by transportation construction in that area for the last few years. This construction work has been in particular in fact impacted our Progress Place, which delivers services for our unhoused population, as well as local child care facilities. And when we look at their staff and volunteers being able to access the facilities and to provide services, they've encountered a number of barriers because of this construction. At the same time, we have a number of our local parking garages which are underutilized. And so working with our local partners, we have put together this discounted parking permit. The proposed rate would be 5% of the current monthly permit rate for garages in the area. So that would be $6.60 per month per permit, as opposed to the current rate of $132 per month for a single permit. This is for most of the garages in the downtown Silver Spring area, except for two of our garages, which have a higher monthly fee. And those fees would be $9.75 per month compared to $195 per month. We are setting the maximum number of permits that an individual organization can apply for to 25. And we want to thank Council members Lukey and Katz for co-sponsoring this measure. And there will be a public hearing scheduled in January. It'll be on January 21st. So that's a bill introduction. Tomorrow, we also have two items related to addressing the unhoused population and the crisis we're facing. The first is a public hearing and council action to approve $3.6 million in special appropriation that would add funding for short-term housing, expand shelter services, and funding for rental assistance programs and housing stabilization. While we have made significant strides in providing shelter for individuals who are unhoused, there's still much work we need to do. And as we know, with temperatures getting very cold with the winter months, housing has become even more critical. And so the Health and Human Services Committee had held a session on November 7th that covered these issues in depth. And I'm glad to see that we have this appropriation before us tomorrow. In addition to the introduction and action on that supplemental, we will also be introducing a $2.7 million supplemental appropriation for the 988 crisis hotline service. This is coming from state grants, and these funds are necessary to help cover staffing, operating costs, and information technology needed to conduct the hotline services. In September, the Health and Human Services and Public Safety Committees held a joint session, and they looked at data that showed that the Crisis Center has been receiving over 41,000 calls in FY24. These safety net services are critical to our community, and we're committed to taking the action necessary to support them. Again, this will be a core focus of my presidency moving forward as we really look at how to address the mental health crisis here in Montgomery County. Another item that we're taking up tomorrow is a vote to extend the minority, female, and disabled-owned business purchasing program for the next 5 years. Based on findings of the ongoing disparities in procurement affecting MFD businesses, we have expedited Bill 23-24 that would extend the sunset of our MFD program to December 31st, 2029. This bill also requires the director of the county's Office of Procurement to complete a new disparity study by July 1st of 2029. If this bill passes, the extension will allow local minority and female and disabled-owned businesses to receive county procurement contracts. These are more than just our businesses here in the county. They are the center of our community hubs and are vital to job creation and keeping our economy moving. We had a detailed conversation about this in our Government Operations Committee last Thursday, and I want to thank Vice President Will Giwando and Councilmember Sales for leading this initiative and to continuing to support our businesses and entrepreneurs here in Montgomery County. Right. Other things coming up tomorrow, we are continuing with briefings on MCPS budget. Tomorrow's focus will be on contracts. As you may recall, we began this under Council Member Frieson's presidency, where we are looking in depth at the MCPS budget. As you might also recall, the MCPS budget is $3.3 billion on their operating side, and this accounts for nearly half of our county's $7.1 billion operating budget. And so we began looking more in depth as a full council at the MCPS budget. We started this on November 12th when we received a briefing on cost drivers and spending at MCPS for the fiscal years of 2015 through 2025. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, we will be doing a deep dive into contracts. And then our third meeting is tentatively scheduled for early of 2025 to review the components of and understanding the fiscal impacts of the blueprint for Maryland's future on our MCPS budget. As we've stated, the intention of these meetings is to assist the council and the public to better understand the MCPS budget structure, identify opportunities for structural efficiencies, and understand the implications for future funding. I look forward to working with Superintendent Taylor and the new Board of Education and Board President Julie Yang in the year ahead. Finally, tomorrow, we will take up expedited bill 16-24, which amends the development impact taxes, which are assessed on new residential and commercial development, as well as additions to commercial development buildings in the county. We passed this bill on November 25th, on November 12th, unanimously by the county council, and we sent it over to the county exec. Unfortunately, the county exec vetoed the bill on November 25th. So now it comes back to the county council. This fall, we worked very diligently in the Government Operations Committee, looking at the impact taxes. We held multiple work sessions on this, which actually much of the council attended. We looked at the impact tax structure and the approach we wanted to take this year. We were very clear that we were not touching any of the impact taxes that would impact or affect the school funding. And so we kept the status quo on school funding. What we did look at was look at a new approach for our transportation impact tax, because we felt that those impact taxes, the foundation of them, are based on assumptions from 2007, and how we view transportation issues and our capital projects has changed dramatically since then. And we want to advance and encourage new types of development, like smaller townhomes or apartments with 3 bedrooms. And so what the county council did this year on impact taxes was remove and exempt some of the transportation impact taxes. Again, unfortunately, the county executive did veto that when we sent it over to him. So tomorrow, we're looking to override that veto in our council session and hopefully move forward with these exemptions and putting them in place. In addition to the work that we did on impact taxes this fall, we do know that we need to take a closer look at the impact taxes. And so we are going to be setting up a working group to look in depth at the approach we have on impact taxes and how we are really funding our growth and development in our communities and making sure that we have appropriate spaces in our schools as well as the infrastructure for that growth. So stay tuned on that. That will first come, the proposal for the working group will first come to the Government Operations Committee this winter and then come to full council for consideration. So that was a lot for my first media update on priorities and some of the things that we're going to be addressing tomorrow. So I'll turn it back to Jordan.
Great. Thank you so much, Council President Stewart. Reporters, if you have any questions, you can note that in the chat or you can simply raise your hand and I will call on you. I don't see any questions at the moment, so I'll give you a few moments. Reporters, any questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, Jenny Bixby with MoCo 360. Good afternoon, Jenny.
Good afternoon, Jordan. You knew I was coming. Hi, Council President Stewart, and thank you for your first meeting with the press, official meeting of the press. You had talked a little bit about your plans as Council President to ensure services and various protections and services for members of marginalized communities in wake of the federal administration changes. Also, it's no secret that there's a lot of budget challenges coming up. I know you just became president, but have you thought a little bit through what your strategies will be to balance those two things as we are likely to face continued budget shortcomings and tight budgets?
Sure. Thank you, Ginny, for that question. We've already started having these conversations and looking at it. As you know, I chair government operations and fiscal policy. We've already been in conversations with our Office of Grant Management, who has been looking at what are some of the federal grants or some of the federal funds we receive that we may not be receiving. As the new administration comes into power in January. We are also looking at really prioritizing and working with our partners on the ground on making sure that residents have the resources they need now as we prepare. And so yesterday, for example, at the resource fair we had folks there from WorkSource Montgomery and other people to help with employment issues if somebody is looking to switch jobs or are concerned because they're a federal contractor or employee. And we're also working with our partners, particularly in the immigrant community, to make sure people know their rights, to connect them to legal services if they may need that in the upcoming months. And we're continuing the work that we have always done, but really started in earnest last year on making sure that we are funding healthcare access as well as support for our LGBTQ plus community, especially transgender members of our community. I think as we look at our budget coming up, we are going to need to do what we have done in the past. This county did live through a prior Trump administration. I was a mayor of a city when he was in power before. So I have some experience on what is coming. We also, we made it through COVID as well. And as we prepare for that, we learned a lot of lessons through those experiences and working with our government departments as well as our nonprofits. We're doing all we can right now to prepare for that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Any other reporters with questions today? Going once? Going twice? 3 times? Okay, back to you, Council President, for closing remarks. Thank you.
Great. Well, I thank you, Jordan. Thank you for everyone joining us today. I, again, just very much appreciate all the work that you're doing to keep our residents informed. And, you know where to find us if you have any follow-up questions on any of the items. And I look forward to continuing the dialogue with you all.